I'm Justin Keay, Field Specialist in Horticulture for University of Missouri Extension. Winter squash and garlic are two commodities that are often stored for long periods of time by Missouri producers. I'm going to give a brief overview today of some of the best practices for post-harvest storage of winter squash and garlic. Quality considerations at winter squash harvest include that fully mature winter squash has hard rinds and, except for some stripe varieties, a solid external color. Flesh of good quality winter squash is bright yellow or orange with a fine, moist texture. Best practices for harvest of winter squash include cutting with sharp pruning clippers and leaving a short stem. Most importantly, place in containers with care not to scratch neighboring squash. Effective long-term storage of winter squash depends on the skin remaining intact and uninjured throughout the duration of storage. When considering handling and packing winter squash from the field, no cooling is necessary at the time of harvest. And when considering curing, it's important to be noted that winter squash can be sold immediately without curing. However, for long-term storage, curing is necessary. To cure winter squash, place in a warm, ventilated, dry area. Greenhouses can work well for this. Bring temperatures up to 85 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 to 10 days. When considering washing winter squash, field brushing or brush washing can be used. However, it's best to store winter squash unwashed and wash at the time of shipment to avoid disturbing the outer wax layer that develops on the skin of the squash. You can tank dip in wash water with sanitizer before curing. This can be used to alleviate some of the disease issues that may develop in long-term storage. Long-term storage of winter squash depends on effective regulation of the temperature and humidity. Ideal temperature for winter squash storage is from 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit with a relative humidity of 50 to 70%. Some vegetables can be damaged by ethylene production during long-term storage. Winter squash is a very low ethylene producer, although it is somewhat sensitive to ethylene exposure. Damage potential considerations for winter squash include that it is moderately chilling sensitive. Winter squash can have a shelf life of 2 to 3 months or more. Pest and disease management post-harvest can be a challenge for some crops. With winter squash, make sure to avoid chilling injury and avoid wounding the squash flesh. Hot water dips at 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 minutes can be used to arrest disease development in long-term storage. Let's move on to garlic. Quality considerations at garlic harvest include that quality garlic is clean and white and well cured, and it should have dried neck and outer skins. The cloves should be firm to the touch at harvest. Best practices for harvest of garlic include loosening with a bed lifter or fork before harvesting to make sure that the roots remain connected and intact to the plant. Roots can be left intact if dry, or they can be cut off with a field knife. In considering handling and packing of garlic, no cooling is necessary at the time of harvest. However, temperature must be regulated for curing. Ideal temperatures for curing garlic are from 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. You can cure garlic in bundles of 10 to 12 heads in a warm, ventilated environment for 10 days. These can be hung to cure or can be laid on a screen. After curing, you can remove the outer 1 to 2 layers of skin. The stem end should be cut with at least 1 inch remaining. For long-term storage of garlic, temperature should be regulated from 30 to 32 degrees Fahrenheit and humidity from 60 to 70%. Garlic is a low ethylene producer and is not sensitive to ethylene exposure. Shelf life of garlic when stored appropriately can be 9 months or more. Pest and disease management considerations for garlic post-harvest include penicillium rot, which is a common problem in stored garlic. Affected bulbs may show little external evidence until decay is advanced, so make sure you're checking your garlic and cutting open cloves of garlic on a regular basis to assess this issue. Affected bulbs are light in weight and individual cloves are soft, spongy, and powdery. It's important to store in a regulated humidity environment so that this does not become an issue. If you're looking for more post-harvest resources, check out Wholesale Success, a farmer's guide to selling, post-harvest handling, and packing produce. This resource was used to create this presentation. We also have resources with MU Extension. University of California, Davis has post-harvest fact sheets for every type of vegetable commodity with very detailed information that can prove helpful when optimizing long-term storage of specific crops.